You can watch the Streamer Spotlight series live on Twitch Sundays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Twitch.tv/TIGHEFIGHTERX1. That's twitch.tv/TIEFighterX1. What is up? I am TIE Fighter X1 and welcome. One moment. That should be better. All right, so I am TIE Fighter X1 and welcome to another edition of Streamer Spotlight. This week's guest is GeekStuffOG. He's a broadcaster of 14 plus years. So we're going to get in and pick his brain a little bit tonight. So with that, let's get right into it. Try that.
Hey.
Okay, there we go.
Hey, there we are. Look at that. Huzzah.
Sorry about that, guys.
All good on my end. So yeah, so broadcaster, long time. Me love you, long time. Yeah. So my lead into broadcasting was I was a blogger for a lot of years. I did mainly toy reviews because my world was pop culture and toy collecting. I fell into that years ago and I decided I wanted to do something more with it. So I became a blogger at a website, just like everybody did, you know, back in the early 2000s. And after doing that for a few years, right as podcasts started to become a thing, right? Like there wasn't these huge podcast networks. iTunes was just starting to accept RSS feeds. Myself and a friend decided we were going to launch a podcast. And the name of the podcast was called Big Kev's Geek Stuff. Big Kev is the other gentleman that I do the show with, or do the show with. He was associated with a radio show at the time out of New York City. And on that show, he was this character, Big Kev. And so the name kind of carried over to the podcast because he had a little bit of recognition. That podcast is still going on. It's been over 14 years, I think, at this point. 553 consecutive episodes online. But if you took into account all the other stuff we did, it's probably well over 600.
So one episode a week?
One episode a week, correct. And the math doesn't quite work out because in there somewhere we had about 6 months with no show because our studio space was robbed.
Wow.
And all of our studio equipment was stolen. Mixers, mics, even the computer that we used to record on, everything was stolen. And so it took us about 6 months to fundraise and get ourselves back up and running.
When did that happen?
That was probably about 10 years ago. No, maybe 9 years ago at this point. Somewhere in that ballpark.
So you were already established a little bit at that point.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We had already been doing the show for a good number of years. We had a really loyal following, a good listener base, and which was a blessing because it's how we were able to raise the money to get our feet back on the ground and get the show back up and running. It was through fans donating. We have a lot of really close connections with the artist community. And I still do. And we had a lot of artists donate pieces, drawings and sculptures and all sorts of original content that we auctioned off and essentially use that as a platform to raise the funds to come back to the podcast because, you know, it was a major part of our life at the time. It still is. And it sucked not being able to do it every week, especially because we had been doing it every week. So, but we did. We eventually got back up and running.
Awesome. And your channel?
My channel now is that was launched on a lark. It was Can I Do Twitch? During the course of the time that I was podcasting, I also was on SiriusXM as a broadcaster. We took the podcast over there. We were on every Saturday night over there. And then I also did another show at SiriusXM for about 3 years where I was the co-host of that show as well. And so I had done podcasting, I had done blogging, I had done actual professional broadcast radio and was considered hired talent. And Twitch was a medium I hadn't tried yet. And I woke up on like a Wednesday afternoon and I was like, I want to try Twitch. And I think Saturday night I did my first stream. So
would you stream the first stream?
I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to try it. Let's see if we can do this. And that was back at the end of last year. So like towards the end of December last year, which is the worst time to launch a stream, right during the holiday season. But it got a lot of a lot of really well reception from my fan base, from the various broadcasts and podcasts. And I was like, I'm just going to develop it and I'm going to keep going with it. And now it's this crazy variety stream where we play Dungeons and Dragons, and I host a Just Chatting stream every Thursday night, and I pepper in video games whenever I can. We do some crafting and all sorts of fun stuff. It's a true variety stream because it hits on like so many different categories.
So what was the first stream that you did of that on that Saturday night? What was that stream?
That the very, very first stream that I did, I hadn't read the terms of service with Twitch very well.
Oops.
And so I decided to bring my son with me behind the camera, who has an interest in broadcasting and engineering. Even at 8 years old, he's already got a really strong interest in it all. And I was like, you know what? Let's just do like some unboxing. Let's do like a game review, and we'll do a quick movie review, a movie that we had just seen together. And I don't remember what it was. It might have been Power Rangers, or it was something that had just come out around that time. And, and it was just the two of us hanging out, having a conversation and engaging with the people in the chat room. And look, the people in the chat room for that very first stream were friends and family and
sure.
People that knew me from the podcast. But it was just so much fun to do that I just wanted to develop it further and further and further. And I think the second stream that I did was a crafting stream where I just started making Dungeons and Dragons terrain while talking to people.
Nice.
Because that's what I'm good at. I'm good at talking to people. So I was just like, well, I got to do something with my hands. So I'll just craft and I'll just make some shit. We'll just have
Otherwise, you just talk with them, right?
I'm Italian. It happens. I'm Italian and I'm from New York. So it's in the bloodstream. I can't help it.
Very nice. All right, so let's jump into some Twitch news, and then we'll jump back into some more about you.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Ninja's back in the news again this week. An article came out stating that Twitch hasn't really lost any viewers in the Fortnite category, but no real boost for other people except for a slight increase in Tim the Tatman and Dr. Lupo, if you're familiar with them.
Yeah.
They still play Fortnite with Ninja on a regular basis, though, so what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think the whole Ninja thing, I'm not surprised that Twitch has not lost. I'm not surprised that Twitch hasn't seen a huge dip. I think they're probably sugarcoating it a little bit. I'm sure they saw a dip that is at least quantifiable, right?
Sure.
And based on what you just read, it sounds like they don't even want to say it's quantifiable, but I bet it's quantifiable. That being said, I'm not surprised that it's not this epic, huge splash in the pond because I don't know anybody that watches Twitch for a single channel, right? So even if Ninja's not streaming, you're gonna just check out other people. And this is my personal opinion. This has nothing to do with anybody who streams on Mixer, because I know plenty of people who do it and they put on really quality streams and they have a lot of fun doing it. But I find Mixer as an end user, not as a streamer, as an end user, to be really unfriendly. The app is real janky and doesn't work very well. The desktop version of it, in my opinion, is not conducive to like easy search. Like I always feel like it's a challenge to get Mixer up and running no matter where I'm trying to do it. So Ninja is going to pull his people. They're going to watch his stream, but I don't think a ton of people are going to jump over to Mixer. Not now. Maybe at some point if Mixer gets their shit together. But it is what it is.
Yeah, I think they would have already jumped if they were going to. I mean, he did get, I think it was like 500 million subs or something like that in his first week.
Yeah, he did. But remember, for him, and this is not to knock the guy. The guy is a powerhouse, right? And he deserves all the accolades. He earned it, yada, yada, blah, 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 whatever. But remember when he went over to Mixer, there was also some sort of thing where they were giving out free subscriptions to like whatever, or however many number of people. So the real test of Ninja's pull to Mixer is going to be 2 months from now.
Sure. They
Because
can sustain it.
Right, to see if it sustains, to see how much people carry over while still maintaining other subscriptions to other streamers, just in general. So I think those first month numbers are headline grabbing, and they're this boom scenario, which is entirely what this was set up to be. But I think 2 months from now, you'll have a better actual idea of what the pull is for him.
Awesome. So without getting into your personal opinions, as we have a rule in this channel for no politics, but it's been told that Bernie Sanders has created a channel and plans to use this to try and connect with gamers by talking about his campaign and communicate with them. So on that level, what are your thoughts? Not necessarily Bernie as a politician.
I think that all candidates who are technologically savvy or who have someone who is technologically savvy should be using every single mode of social media that is available to them to reach a voting base, no matter who you align yourself with. I think that getting young voters into the polling booths is probably still one of the hardest challenges that this country faces. And good for Bernie. I'm sure that other people are going to follow suit. I know AOC did some sort of Twitch stream for either with a friend, but she was just playing games, and I think it became an interview. But I think they should use them. Why not? I mean, you know, I don't want Twitch to create like political categories necessarily, because I think that is just opening up Pandora's box. But if they want to talk in the just chatting category or wherever it may be, do it, man. Knock yourselves out.
Yeah, I think it's a really good thing as well. I mean, because it's really hard to reach this demographic, you know? Nobody goes out to these conventions anymore. If you're a younger person, right? We're kind of hands off. And I say we because I fall into that. I don't keep up with politics because the personal reasons. We'll just leave it at that. Oh, okay. Are we?
I'm still here.
But yeah. So what else? Twitch is answering Mixer's currency of Sparks with what Twitch is calling channel points. It's going to let you reward members that hang out on your channel with numerous perks, including a taste of benefits typically reserved for subscribers.
Okay.
So yeah.
I don't know. I'll have to see how it works. I mean, I think it's a good idea. I think anything that you can give back to followers and subscribers is a good idea. And it's really hard to come up with subscriber perks. I think it's hard to come up with subscriber perks. So, I mean, if Twitch is going to try to work with streamers, my only concern whenever Twitch does this, I feel like they limit who has access to it. But and you know, I have a problem with the favoritism that happens sometimes. But yeah, you know, whatever. They've got to evolve. They've got to address all the things that the competition has. That's the best thing to come out of this Mixer situation, is that it's going to force Twitch to get off the couch and think.
Sure. But at the same time, they're taking the easy way out and just taking Mixer's idea.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, the flip side of that coin is you could argue that you know, Mixer's entire premise is building off of the shoulders of Twitch, and then Twitch built off of YouTube, I'm sure, to a certain degree. Sure. And I think they all sort of bite off of each other, and it's going to depend on how Twitch implements it. I guess that will make it unique, but you know, I don't know. I have to see how it works. I think it's a good idea, at least on paper. It'll be execution that makes or breaks it.
Right. So a week and a half ago, a young teenager was streaming a cooking stream when someone went into his channel and told him to help the food be mixed by using his hands. The kid did, and luckily didn't get extremely hurt. Twitch banned the kid's channel, and the kid went on to defend the viewer, saying it was an all in good fun that he helped his channel blow up. So I think he was 14 years old.
Wait, so hold on. So he was doing a cooking stream. A viewer told him to mix the food with his hands?
Help the mixer mix the food.
Oh. Yes. Gotcha. Yeah, look, I mean, that kid, you know, stupid as a stupid does. You're gonna suffer the consequences. Look, the terms of service are what they are. We all try to ride that. We all try to ride that line. All right, some of us try to ride that line, but you can't get upset if you get bit. You know, like it happens. Just don't be stupid.
But what about?
I mean, good for that kid. Was it a lifetime ban or was it a temporary ban?
No, I think it's a lifetime ban.
It's a lifetime ban. He'll go to Mixer.
Yeah. So, what do you think about the age limit? Right, at 14, are you able to comprehend not to stick your hand in a mixer?
You should be able to not. You should be able to. I mean, that's to me. That's like, all right. At 14, if you don't know to not stick your hand in a mixer, then you shouldn't be doing a cooking stream. I mean, like that's basic tenets of like operating in a kitchen. You know what I mean? Like I like to cook. It's one of my favorite things in the world to do. It's actually one of the things that I was going to pursue as a career at one point in time in my life. I like to cook. So I teach my child to cook, my son to cook. He knows hot, cold, don't touch the oven, don't stick your hand in the mixer. Like I'm assuming at 14, he's got to have some sort of parental consent to at least do what he's doing. And I would hope that he's smart enough to know better than sticking his hand in the mixer. I'm guessing that he knows that he shouldn't have done it, but was playing the what are the odds card. Like, what are the odds I'll really get hurt bad? And it failed.
Will this help me become a full-time streamer?
Yeah. Is this worth the risk? I've got 10 fingers. Do I need 10 fingers? Will 9 do? These are the questions you ask yourself.
Nice. So we're a week late, but do you want to touch on Brooke Houts and her video on YouTube with her dog?
Look, all of these people who abuse their animals or animals in general, I have zero sympathy for them. And her initial defense, because this is always the best initial defense, was I didn't realize the camera was on, or I thought the camera had turned off. Well, that just means you beat your dog behind the scenes. Like,
right.
Like her and the other one who is spitting vodka into the cat's mouth, Alinity or whatever her name is. Look, they all deserve the punishment that comes to them. I have no tolerance for animal abuse, because it's just like, why would you beat a dog? Like, really? Like, you're gonna smack and punch your dog? Like, come on.
Yeah.
To me, that's just an indicator that you're a weak individual and that you shouldn't own a pet.
All right, so that's all the Twitch news we have for the week. So we'll focus back on you. Don't forget, chat. Feel free to ask any questions in chat, and in the last 20 minutes, we'll pull all those together and get those.
Sweet.
All right, so let's focus on you. You talked a little bit about how you're like, I want to stream on Twitch, and was it just
Yes.
because you just wanted to try another medium, or like what was the deciding factor that you were definitely going to stream on Twitch?
Honestly, it was, it really was a desire to, try to tackle something I hadn't tackled before. It was a combination of that and missing being a live broadcaster. I love podcasting. I love the opportunities that it affords me. I love being able to go in afterwards and edit certain things out and drop in sound bites and music cues and all that stuff. It's all fun, and that's part of the podcasting experience. And I'm all self-taught. Like, I didn't go to broadcasting school. I didn't study any of this stuff. It's always been, what can I sit down and learn? So the thing I liked about broadcasting on SiriusXM was it was a live audience. We took live phone calls. We had live in-studio guests. And when I lost that gig, I was missing the live aspect. I was missing the immediate interaction of live broadcasting. And so I wanted to try to recapture that. And Twitch seemed like the most logical, easiest approach to it. I was a Twitch viewer. Like I had watched a bunch of streams, and there are some channels that I watch exclusively on Twitch for variety content, not game content so much. And I was like, I think I could do this. I think I could figure this out. I also had a ton of equipment already. I had mics, cameras, I had a computer, and I was like, well, I don't need to do a whole lot to do this. So let's give it the old college try.
So
that's really what it was. It was missing live broadcasting more,
So obviously with your podcast, you have all the mixers and stuff. Do you share that equipment?
So we record at my house right now, the podcast. So it's stored here. But it's my equipment though. I bought it all. Like I bought the mixer, I bought all the mics. I think the only thing that I don't actually own is the Mac that we podcast on. I'm not a Mac guy. I'm a PC guy, but we use GarageBand for the podcast. So we have a show Mac that we purchased with show funds. But again, it's housed here, so I have access to all of it. But I don't even use the mixer to stream anymore. Honestly, I use a USB mic now. It's just easier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what's your short-time goals as far as growing GeekStuffOG on Twitch?
My initial goal was to just do it. And then it was, I want to become an affiliate, which I did. And then it was like, well, can I make partner? Probably not. And I know this is the easy answer, is to say to make partner. But for me, it's just a challenge. I want to challenge myself to try to make partner. I don't know that I'll do anything different with it than what I'm doing now, but I'd like to try to do it. But my goal, really, honestly, my goal on Twitch is to just have fun. For me, it's a huge creative outlet. Even if everything else went away tomorrow, like even if I lost affiliate status tomorrow, I'd probably still stream on Twitch or someplace if I, couldn't stream on Twitch anymore. It's a creative outlet, and I need a creative outlet. I work a very sort of 9-to-5 job during the week, and I need that sort of downtime, escape, something, and I like it too much. Like I really like communicating with people and talking to people. I've always been really big into social media, Twitter and Instagram. And I like it. I need it. It feeds my soul in a weird way.
So was broadcasting your first career?
I wish that I would have discovered my love and skill set for broadcasting way earlier on in my life than I did, because I might have been able to actually pursue it. Broadcasting is a hobby. I went to school for business management. Like it was nice. The basic, you need a major. What do you want to do? And I only picked business management after I decided that I wasn't going to go to culinary school, because that was my real passion. And then I worked in the restaurant industry for about a year, and I was like, oh no, this is great as a hobby and I can develop these skills, but I do not want to work in this industry.
So when are we going to see a GeekStuffOG cooking stream?
Funny you should mention that. One of my 2020 goals is to do a pop culture themed cooking stream where I want to explore different types of foods that you see in movies and television and try to recreate them or make them on a stream. So you might see that next year. You never know.
Is this going to be a one night only thing, or is that going to be a series?
No. Because I already have a list of about 10 or 15 things. So in theory, it would be like a peppered in there, like maybe once every other month or something like that. Just like maybe once every other month or something like that. Because my schedule is pretty full as it is as a streamer. But I'm always looking to do something new and different. And if I can manage a cooking stream in there, it is on the agenda for next year. So
that's very awesome. So let's talk about the D&D streams. Every Monday night you do a D&D called Roll For It, right?
Correct.
So how did that start, and how long has it been going, and how long do you plan on continuing it?
So I've been playing Dungeons & Dragons since 1993, I think. So that was Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. Second edition was the year that's where they were in the line of editions of D&D. So I've been playing for years and years and years on and off. And I hadn't played in quite some time. And last summer, I was talking to a very good friend of mine who lives out on the West Coast, and he was like, I really want to play D&D. And I was like, yeah, I really want to play D&D too. And this was before I was streaming. And I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to start playing. Let's just figure out how to play. We'll play through Discord. We'll get a couple people and we'll do it. And so by like October, we were playing on Discord with a group of people. So I've been playing that game since October. Probably around March or so of this year is when I launched Roll For It, which was just a continuation of that stream. But honest to God, it took me about 3.5 months to figure out how to stream it, because I didn't want to use like the virtual tabletop programs that are out there.
And then everybody else has to own that as well, right?
Yeah, well, no, I don't think so. But there are other streamers that use it, right? And Taco, who you interviewed a couple of weeks ago, he uses that. And it's a great platform. But I'm very old school, and I wanted minis and battle maps and actual 3D printed, like, or, 3D created terrain elements and stuff like that. So I wanted to figure out how to make it work. And it was really just a while to figure out how to make it work through Discord and then stream it. My setup is 3 different computers with 2 different cameras, all feeding into Discord, and then everybody from around the country feeding into Discord also, and then pushing it all to Twitch. It was an undertaking to get it up and running. So the game has been going on since probably about October, and I will run it until people no longer want to play.
Awesome.
I mean, I have a sort of end point in mind as a DM, but I can certainly write and create well past that, as I'm always changing it on the fly and thinking of new things. So I'll go until people say they don't want to play anymore.
Very cool. So change gears a little bit.
Sure.
I'm new to streaming. I've never streamed a day in my life. What advice would you have given yourself about streaming before you started streaming?
I probably wouldn't have pushed live as quickly as I did, because those first couple of streams were a real doozy when it came to technical issues. So the one thing I would say is take the time to learn the software. Take the time to decide really what it is you want to stream in some sort of format, and find somebody who is a streamer. Find someone that you're friends with who has that as a skill set, and don't be afraid to ask them for advice. Don't be afraid to go to somebody who is doing it already and asking them for advice. I didn't really know any streamers at the time, so I was kind of learning it on the fly. But I probably would have approached it differently if I knew some people back then, if I had taken the time to learn or connect with people. But that's just not how I operate. Like, my brain doesn't work that way. My brain is like, no, you have to do this thing. Let's figure out how to do it. All right, you figured it out, and go.
Right.
It's not always the right way to do it, but it's how I operate. So I probably would have just taken a little bit more time and a little bit more patience. And then the other thing is the same advice I give to anybody who asks about podcasting is just make sure that you actually want to do it, and don't immediately assume you're going to be a success overnight. Right? I don't fall into that pitfall any longer. I used to years ago, but that's the number one thing that I still think that people are confronted with as a podcaster, as a streamer, and any kind of artistic or creative outlet, is they assume that they are going to make it big like instantly, and it just doesn't work that way. And you have to be willing to put in the work to get a good end product. So just be patient, enjoy the journey, enjoy the learning process, and have fun with it.
So you said your first stream, you had a lot of followers already from your podcasts and your friends and family. So how long after you started your podcast did actually people start following your podcast? How was the growth there?
So the growth on the podcast was pretty good out of the gate. We kind of launched Geek Stuff at a time where there weren't a ton of other pop culture podcasts. Like, Kevin Smith didn't have his show yet. I mean, it would be years before he had Smodcast. I think there was one other comic book related podcast that I can think of, and it was called Comic Geek Speak, and I think those guys are still around too. They were doing a podcast, and so it was. I want to say within 6 months, we probably had we were probably averaging anywhere between 100 and 150 downloads per episode.
Wow.
Unique downloads, which was astronomical. Like, we didn't expect that. I was hoping for 10. If I had reached 10 people, that would have been great. So yeah, within 6 months, we were pushing 100, 150. I would say by the end of the first year, we were closer to 500 downloads an episode.
Very cool.
And it's been steady growth ever since.
So what kind of obstacles have you had to face as far as broadcasting goes? So you've been doing it 14 years. I'm sure you've had all kinds. So let's pick one or two that really stands out that like made you almost quit, right?
It always seems to be either technically related, so equipment issues or stuff like that, or
your stuff getting stolen.
Getting so stolen. That was close. That was real close. Or honestly, one of the hardest things was making the transition from going from a podcast where I was essentially my own boss, right? I had no one governing my content. The content was what I produced, what I put on a prep sheet each week, what I pulled, what I did. When I went to Sirius for the first time, I had a producer, I had an engineer, and I had a boss. And the boss was like, well, you can't talk about this, this, and this. It's satellite radio, so you're not governed by FCC, but you are still governed by our sort of taboo topics, and there are certain things that you can't broach. And one thing I've never been all audience friendly. I don't know that I can be all audience friendly. And I know that hurts me in some regards, but that's fine. So when I had to really think about those sorts of things, it was really difficult to start answering to somebody because I'm not used to it. So those are two, because again, the thing about podcasting is it's really very freeing. It's really very, you could literally turn on a microphone and just say the F word for 5 minutes straight and then just turn it off and publish it if you wanted to. It might not go over well. It might in some avant-garde art communities, but it might not go over well. But you could do it and there's no repercussions to it, as opposed to broadcast where you have to answer to somebody now.
Sure.
You're an employee and you're expected to act a certain way and behave a certain way. So that was difficult. And there were a couple of times where I was like, no, I don't think this is the right decision for me. But then it got lax and I was able to do what I wanted. Before I know it, we were having beer shows and playing beer pong at 2 a.m. in a radio station. So it was cool.
So what I love about these shows is I can ask a question and then depending on your answer, it pops up different questions in my head. It's really cool. So how did you get involved with Sirius?
So a friend of mine was a producer for the Opie and Anthony show, which in this area, they used to be on NEW out of New York. And then they got syndicated across the country.
Sounds familiar. What are they?
They were a really, really big deal in the early 2000s. They were a talk show and they rivaled Howard Stern as far as the New York market went. They were the guys who got fired from terrestrial radio because they had a challenge where a couple got caught having sex in St. Patrick's Cathedral. And it made international headlines. And they got fired because they sponsored that challenge. And so that was the kind of show that they put on. And so I had a very good friend who was one of their producers, and he was given the opportunity to launch his own show, and he needed a co-host. And right around that time, they were also looking for podcast content to rebroadcast on Sirius. So I put together a media package. My friend and Big Kevin and I put together a package. We sold it to Sirius. We brought the podcast over to Sirius. And then when my friend's show launched, he needed a co-host. He asked me to go along for the ride. And I did. I was like, well, yeah, duh. How can I say no to this opportunity? I'm going to be an actual paid broadcaster, so it would be stupid to pass that up. And honestly, it was luck. It was a bit of luck. It was a bit of being in the right place at the right time. And it was a bit of having already developed myself as a podcaster. It was all of those things kind of played into it.
That's crazy. Can you If I was going to set up a podcast for the first time and I knew the topic on it, let's say the topic is sports, or let's drill in farther than and go with football. How would one set up their first podcast? Like, what would you tell them to do?
If they were looking on advice for how to do it, what I would tell them to do is sit down and record that very first episode with no intention of publishing that very first episode. Sit down and record it. So obviously, let's assume that you have software, right? I mean, if you don't, Audacity is free. And it's a very well-known podcasting software. All you need is a USB mic, get a Yeti or a Snowball or any one of those mics and plug it into Audacity and go. So let's say you figured out that part of it. Record that very first episode without the intention of ever publishing it and listen to it. Because that is the most important thing for your first podcast, is to go back and listen to it. Listen to the ums and the ahs, listen to the pauses and the breaks, because what that will allow you to do is create an outline for yourself to keep the flow moving, right? And to keep you on point. Not that you can't stray from point, but you always have to have something to go back to.
Sure.
And then what I would tell them to do is, once you've done that, go back and re-record that episode with all of your notes from the first episode. And that's the one that you publish, because I guarantee you it'll be 100% better the second time around. And that's the one that, and you'll find your footing that way. And I think that goes for a lot of,
yeah, the same advice can be a set of Twitch, right? Watch your VODs
Watch
back.
your VODs. Absolutely. Watch your VODs. Listen to where the breaks are. Listen to where they are, listen to where the pauses are, where you have issues, and make an outline for yourself, unless you're so comfortable talking without an outline. But not everybody is. So make an outline. There's nothing wrong with having it, and just be prepared and follow it. You'll be fine. That's what I would tell somebody. Just practice at it. It is a skill set. People don't realize that podcasting is a skill set. Streaming is a skill set. And like any other skill set, it takes practice, and it takes learning how to do it. Learn how to do it, and you'll be fine.
All right.
Right?
So,
you know how to
and
do
real
it.
quick,
You learned how to do it.
we'll get into some chat questions here in a moment. But
Sure.
earlier you said that if you're going to start streaming, make sure you ask questions. So a lot of people think that they don't know how to network, right? So what kind of networking do you do in a single day or in a week if you don't actually dedicate any time for it for a single day?
So networking is probably the most important thing you can do as any sort of content creator. And I keep on going broad-based with it because I honestly do believe that there are similarities between all of those mediums, right? Even an artist, an illustrator, it's similar. So for every hour I stream, I would say I probably spend double to triple that networking. And I network through things like Discord, through things like Twitter, and I network through the platform itself.
Right.
Discord is huge because Discord will immediately bring you into communities. And there are a bunch of really great communities out there where you can immediately start to connect with people and ask them questions and learn how they do things. And in theory, through things like Discord, you're going to start to create friendships, which will lead to some sort of viewership or follower base, which is great. But you can't not look at the other areas of networking. So Twitter is super important too, because through use of hashtags, you can find a lot of other like-minded people. So for example, for Roll For It, right? I always tag all of my Roll For It posts with D&D, tabletop RPG, stuff like that. And I have picked up a ton of viewers who have never used Twitch before, but follow that hashtag or check out that hashtag. And they're like, oh, I kind of want to check this out. This is new to me. And the one thing I will say is that as a Twitch streamer, you cannot rely on Discord communities alone, because you cannot rely on streamers alone to build your community. You need people who are not streamers to really hit growth strides, because at some point, just relying on other streamers is a bit cannibalistic. Sure. Because everybody is trying to stream at the same time. Right. So we can't all support each other. We'd love to think that we could, but we can't. So you really need to learn how to to do that. And then the other thing that's really big for me that I don't think a lot of people do is face-to-face networking. And I know in 2019, coming on 2020, I know that the concept of face-to-face networking is really foreign to some people. I know it, but nothing is better than face-to-face networking. So every single time I leave the house, right, I have business cards with me every single time, because I never know when I'm going to engage in a conversation with somebody and want to hand them a card to come and check out what I was at Panera last week. And I was talking to my son. I got my son a set of dice at Gen Con this year, and he wanted to bring them with us. And we were just sitting at the table rolling the dice, and he was like, Dad, what does a D10 do? What does a D20 do? And I was trying to explain to him how it works. Some guy 3 tables over comes up and goes, so do you play D&D? And I was like, I do play D&D. And we struck up this whole conversation. And after a good 30-minute conversation with this person, I was like, hey, look, if you're really into D&D, and you want to check something out, I stream a game every Monday night. Here's my card. It's got all my information, all my social media, and my Twitch link.
Wait.
Come and check
you
it
have
out.
Cards that have your information on it?
Yeah, business cards.
Oh, wow. That's sarcasm, obviously.
Yes, I know. But that's huge, right? You never know. I go to my local comic book store a couple times a month just to go, and I'll just randomly strike up conversations with people. I go to all the local conventions I can go to. I go to as many big conventions as I can go to. If I see a library is having a tabletop day, I'll go. If I see that the high school is having a video game day, I'll go. Even if I only spend 15 or 20 minutes just walking around and talking to people, it's huge. And people forget about the face-to-face connections. And if you have the ability to do that, you should absolutely do it. I think it's a lost art, but I think it's very different than networking online. And I think you will reap a lot of benefit from trying to do it.
That's awesome. All right. So we could probably talk for another hour of various conversations, but
sure,
we've got about 10 minutes left.
Okay.
12 minutes to be exact. So number one, what are you streaming tonight?
I will be streaming Spider-Man tonight. I'm back into my Spider-Man jam after seeing the latest movie. I was hook, line, and sinker on that movie, and I was like, I got to jump back in and try to go through this again. So it's actually my second playthrough. So just be super casual, but it's fun. It's a fun game to play.
Very awesome. Number two, what Discord channels if somebody wanted to connect with other people, what would you prefer or recommend actually for them to join?
If I could, I'll plug 3 real quick.
Sure.
One Up Streamers is an awesome community. It's a smaller community, but it's a super dedicated community. I love everybody over there. They're great. Next Level is really, really good. A lot of really good streamers over there as well. And that's probably one of my first big communities that I've ever joined. I made a lot of really good friends over there. And the Grizzly Nation is a really, really good one too. That's probably one of the most supportive communities I've ever seen. And they're members of so many other small communities that you really have all this crazy growth potential with them. So I would check out all 3 of those as communities. Anybody can hit myself up or Ty, I'm sure, for links. We can share those too. You guys can hit me up on social media. I'm GeekStuffOG everywhere. It's just easier that way.
Hey, we're not plugging yourself yet. We'll get to that in a minute.
I'm sorry. My apologies.
All right, real quick then, let's get through some of these questions. If we don't get to your question in the next 10 minutes, please feel free to ask Geek while he's streaming Spider-Man. He will be glad to answer your questions there as well.
Yeah, 100%. Come by.
All right, so Zyroth hit me up in Discord. He wants to know what made you pursue a career in radio. And he's got 4 questions, so let me just read the whole thing. What made you pursue a career in radio? How did you practice, develop your skills to pick up on dead or silent moments while broadcasting? And then the best memory of doing it or your favorite interview.
Okay. I decided to do it on a lark. I was doing something else. I was blogging. It looked like podcasting was going to be big, so I wanted to try it, much like everything else that I do. I told you that's how my brain works. And I've always been really good at just talking. I've always been a good communicator. It's just a skill that I have. naturally. I'm lucky in that I grew up in a family that did it a lot. So it really wasn't a hard transition for me to take it to broadcasting. As far as trying to conquer dead air and dead space, I still don't know that I've conquered that perfectly, but there are ways to minimize it. And I think part of that is always having something on deck to fall back to. And in a live stream situation, just throwing it back to the audience. You want to kill dead air real quick, ask the audience a question. Because at minimum, you'll kill the time it takes to ask the question. And at best, you'll get a couple of responses and just snowball into the next. I mean, that's essentially what fireside chat is. So that's how I kind of run that. You know, I have a very loose outline for that. And then
and on that, though, if you're going to ask the chat a question, my personal belief is you ask the question 2 minutes ahead of time. This way it gives people time to answer the question while you're still doing other stuff, and then now you have something to fall back on. Absolutely.
And sometimes I'll lead into it. Like if we're on one topic, I'll say what we're going to go to next. So
you're really good about that.
About it. And you know, and that comes from honestly, that comes from Sirius more than anything. Just having to keep that flow. I was confined to like 52 minutes of broadcast time, and I know I had certain things I had to hit. So I just, you just practice doing it. As far as what my favorite moment is or favorite interview, I'm a huge fan of the TV series Firefly and Serenity, the film that followed it. And so it was like a life goal of mine to meet as many of the cast members as I ever could. The one that I wanted to meet most was Alan Tudyk, who played Wash on the show. He was my favorite character on the show. I have his last line tattooed on my leg. I went to go see him off Broadway and stood outside like an idiot in the cold a couple times, and he never came out the stage door. And finally, 2 years ago, I got to interview him at San Diego Comic-Con, and I had the ultimate like shutdown fanboy moment, which I normally don't do. I'm normally really good about that, but I shut down, and I could tell it was like, we hit that awkward moment. So then I just left everything else aside and said, you know what, I went and saw you on Broadway and I thought you were an amazing performer. And it was so different than what he had been talking about on this press tour that he immediately opened up. And then we just had a 15-minute conversation.
Awesome.
And it was just real casual and real comfortable and amazing. So
after that awkward moment.
Yeah. Right. I shut down. I was like, I was totally tongue tied. And it was really awkward and weird, but I don't know, my brain kicked in with enough time to change direction. So that's probably my favorite interview. I've done so many, though. I've talked to so many awesome creative people, but that's probably my favorite.
That's awesome.
I think I got them all right.
TR Justin, yes, you did. Thank you. TR Justin 22 in Twitch chat wants to know if you could change anything about Twitch, what would it be?
If I could change anything about Twitch, what would it be? God, I don't know that I have an answer to that question. I like the platform a lot. I think that they're a little bit loosey-goosey with how they enforce some of their rules. And I think that I would prefer to truly see them enforce their rules equally. Like they clearly play favoritism towards certain streamers, and I get it. That's a business decision, but it makes it really hard for someone who's not at that level to get to that level when they're playing against a different set of rules. So I guess if I could pick one thing, that would be it.
Especially like if they're doing it on stream, they're not getting in trouble for it, and then you're like, well, they're getting viewers because of that. Let me try it, and then
you get banned.
Hammer.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, the official rogue.
Oh no, what's that character want?
Wants to know what does the fox say.
I have no idea. Ask Red. I see Red's in the chat too.
Yes. He also wants to know he has his first follower. Can he go full time?
Yeah, that's it. One follower. That's all you need. You don't even need a sub. Full time. Just quit your job. No, come
on. Let's see. What does the fuck? Yeah, I already did. When is the right time to become full time?
I think that all depends on each individual streamer and what your obligations are outside of streaming. So for myself, and you probably fall into this situation too, right? But I have a family. You have family, right? So my Twitch does not give me enough income to anywhere come close to what I make with my full-time job. So unless I could somehow 100% replace all of the benefits that I get from my full-time job, I wouldn't be able to go full-time. And so realistically speaking, I don't think that I'll ever go full-time.
Right.
But I'm okay with that. Honestly, like I'm okay with not being full-time. I'd like to be partner just to be partner, but I don't think that I'll ever go full-time. I'm too old for that. Full-time is a young man's game.
I don't know if that's true, but we'll go to the next question. VJJ80 in Twitch chat wants to know, what is your most coveted piece of geek memorabilia?
My most coveted piece of geek memorabilia. Wow. So I am a giant, huge Green Arrow fan. Like he's my favorite superhero ever since I was a kid. I think it stems from I was a Robin Hood fan. Errol Flynn's Robin Hood, Disney's Robin Hood, Green Arrow. It just grew. But I have an original animation cell from the Super Friends in the 70s that is Green Arrow with his boxing glove arrow. And it is framed up real nicely with a certificate of authenticity. And as far as like ultimate geek collectibles, that's really, really, really high up there for me because of just my fandom in general.
All right. Rogue wants to know if he's an actual rogue.
No, he's not an actual rogue.
Okay. TR Justin 22 in Twitch chat wants to know, how do you handle trolls? I've been there for that. That's fun.
Yeah, I mean, look, first of all, I don't let trolls. Normally, I don't let trolls faze me. I've been buzzed by trolls if they get me after stream, but during the stream, I normally don't let trolls faze me. I have a couple of really good mods that handle them really well for me, Taco and Heather. Heather is ruthless as a mod, and I love her for it. But I don't know. I just troll right back. I'll just bash them right back. I'll flame them. First, I kill them with kindness, and then if they keep pushing me, I'll flame them. That's all. I had a guy pop into stream the other day and just start plugging his stream, and I just let him run with it for a little bit, and then I just unleashed on him. Like, don't come in my stream.
Zazaboo in Twitch chat wants to know, how does preparing to DM an online D&D game differ preparing for a face-to-face game?
It does not differ at all, other than the technical setup. A face-to-face game, I put in 2 to 3 hours a week preparing for it. An online game, I put in 2 to 3 hours a week preparing for it. A face-to-face game, I set up everything at a table, and we sit around a table, order pizza, drink beer, and tacos and have fun. A stream, I have to set up multiple computers and cameras. So it's really just the technical. Yeah, it's just the technical setup, honestly, is the only real difference. Nothing else is different, though. It's the same sort of process.
Ghostfighter X1 on Twitch wants to know, if Twitch ever failed for you, would you switch to another streaming service, or just go back to just your podcast, or try something different?
I don't know what Twitch would do for me to fail for me, because I think my expectations are fairly realistic. So,
or
I mean, unless like
closed, maybe.
Like if Twitch closed, I would try another platform. I wouldn't go to YouTube, I don't think, but I would try Mixer, I guess, if it was the only one that was still around, or I would see whatever else was still out there. Facebook streaming, I hear, is really good too, but I'm not a fan of Facebook, but I wouldn't give up on trying to be a content creator. I would just find whatever community or platform I could be comfortable utilizing.
Awesome. TR Justin 22 wants to know, how do you feel about the view count on stream? Does it affect anything, and do you pay attention to it while you stream?
I don't pay attention to it too often while I stream, because I try to treat my stream the same if there's nobody in there or if there's 50 people in there. Meaning I am constantly talking and constantly trying to engage. However, I do look at my view count afterwards. I do go back and look at my analytics, only because I want to know if there are certain things that hit and miss. Like if there are peaks and valleys, I want to see what those peaks and valleys are, and if there's something specific that triggered either of those, so that I can either take advantage of those peaks a little bit longer, or adjust where the valleys are to turn them into plateaus or peaks.
Awesome. Red Fox 15 wants to know, with the most awesome implementation of the nut cam, Do you think we'll be adding one now that it's the next big thing? So you missed that. That was last night's stream.
Oh, no.
I have a camera that faces, it hooks to the bottom of my desk and it faces up. And it's like I'm talking to my boys, right? So it's the next big thing, right?
It's the next big thing. No, I don't want a nut camera. I don't need that. Keep it simple. Like my balls could be very distracting, and I don't need that. Nobody needs that. To me, to everybody else, who needs that?
Keep it simple. You do not need 4 cameras in your stream like me.
Look, I believe in keep it simple. If 4 cameras works for you and it works for some other people, you do you. I believe me, I didn't even want to get a green screen. I was happy not having a green screen, and then I was like, nah, I should get a green screen. So, like,
it's very cool when you're gaming, right? But in like kind of just chatting, where you can actually like, even this camera here, it kind of shows off some of my collection.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I went with the green screen for just chatting now because I can have it in the tiki bar or on the beach. But
exactly.
But I like what it has to offer. But keep it simple. Yeah. I don't know. Again, there's nothing wrong with somebody who doesn't, but I don't. For me personally, I don't need all those things.
Awesome.
I don't need ball cam. Maybe cat cam. That I'd consider, like kitten cam or something. Yeah,
I thought about setting up a camera on my snake too. That'd be kind of cool.
That might be cool, especially if you feed it. Oh, that'd be cool. Oh, can you do that on stream? Would that be a TOS violation if it eats a mouse or something?
I will let you know in a few months.
Fair enough.
All right, one last question, and we'll let you go so you can get ready. The Rippers one wants to know: did the egg come first or the chicken?
Did the egg come first? I like to think that it was a. Simultaneous, spontaneous growth as a result of alien interference on planet Earth.
Oh, alien interference! There you go. You heard it here. GeekStuffOG, aliens brought the chicken and the egg at the same time.
That's right. It's true.
All right, dude. I appreciate you so much. Let's get some plugs. Where can we find you on all the things?
So I am GeekStuffOG on Twitter and Instagram, and obviously twitch.tv/GeekStuffOG. I don't use the Snappy Chat. And
that's a sub perk.
Yeah, and I game on the PlayStation, but I normally don't game with people because I don't play those types of games. But if anybody ever wanted to play something with me, I don't give that out normally because I've had problems with that in the past. But I do give it out to people, select people. So if we get to that point in our relationship, I will share it with you. But
well,
otherwise, GeekStuffOG.
Make sure you hit me up on Discord so I can get that from you.
Absolutely. See, you I trust, so it's all good. It's all you. I'll give it to.
All right, man. I appreciate it so much. Get ready to go live, 100%. And we'll be rating you here in just a few minutes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, man. This was a lot of fun, and I have been absolutely loving this series. I think you're killing it. I think your guests have been awesome, and I look forward to everybody else you continue to have on the program, friend.
I appreciate it so much, man.
Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.
See you later.
That's it for me tonight. Thanks so much for hanging out. Next week, we will have the official rogue. And yeah, let me know some suggestions. Let's get the raid set up. Thank you so much for hanging out. We will see you again. I will be live on Tuesday playing some more of Detroit Becomes Human.
I love you, man. I love you too.
Love to all of you.
I love you, dude. I love
Hide
you
your children, Rogue Zone next week. That's for damn sure.
I love you, bro.
Thanks again.
I love you, Machacha.
And we will
I love
see you Tuesday.
Goodbye.
Have a great night.